All right, so I want to look at that last program we just wrote, and I want to deal with the case where the user doesn't enter a score at all. So just go back to that code. Essentially, main, we set up an integer array of size 5 or length 5, and then we have a method called getScores that gets all the scores and puts them in an array and returns how many scores there are. Then we call a function called average that calculates the average from that, and then we output the results. So where do we need to be careful of where the user doesn't enter any scores is in both in the average function, because if there's no scores entered, the count would be 0, and you can't divide by 0. So that would be an issue in calculate average, and then it would also be an issue in output results. So we'll go down to calculate average first. So we could just put sort of an if statement in here that says, so this loop will not run if the count is 0. So right here we could say if the count is greater than 0, we will return the total divided by the count. And then we don't need an else statement here. It won't get here if that's true. If that's not true, let's just return 0. So obviously that, or maybe we should return a negative number. So because 0 could be the average, but negative cannot be the average because all of our values that we're entering are at least 0, because a negative number stops the loop. So this logic, if the count is greater than 0, return the total divided by count, otherwise return 0. And that should work fine. If I don't enter any scores here, oops, well, I'm getting an error because I'm trying to do stuff in my next loop. So we output results. So I have to fix that still. But this should not affect the process when it's correct. So we go 80 and 90, oops, 80 and then 90, and the loop should be negative. The average should be 85. There it is. Okay. One more thing I want to show here is I messed up the toString method a few minutes ago, so in the other video. And I just want to show you how to do that correctly. So back in main, after I get the scores, I could actually print the list here. And what I need to do, or what I didn't do correctly, was I want to use the arrays class of objects. So I could do arrays.toString, and then it wants the string that the array that you're going to print. So that's the score array. We're still going to have an error here because the arrays class needs to be imported. I think it must have just imported it. Yep, utilities.arrays. So we could, if we had an import utility.everything, that would have caught that, or we can just import the arrays there. Okay, and what does that look like? 80, 90, and then -9. Notice it prints the entire array, 80 and 90, and then it prints the 3 default values that we have in there of 0. But notice those are not the scores that we really wanted to print. We only wanted to print 80 and 90 and then the average. Okay, so I don't need that line of code. I just wanted to show you that arrays.toString. Initially, we probably should just print it ourselves manually, and I'll show you how to do it, how to print it with the brackets like this in a few minutes. I think I'll just delete it out. Okay, so then in output results, we would also need to account for what to do when the count is 0. So if we think about when the count is 0, there are no scores and there's no average. So these things should be happening. All of this code should be happening if the count is not 0. So I can put an if statement here. If count is greater than 0, so it's always positive. If the count is greater than 0, we'll do all of this stuff. Oops. Print that. I want to run this for loop. Print this, that guy. I'll print that. And then I want to close that if statement. And I'm going to set up an else. We'll just print system.out line. There are no scores. There were no scores entered. And we should, when we check this, we should check that it still works when we enter a few up to 5 scores in. So 80 and 90, and let's go 92, and then let's go 80. And we should probably make sure that I can actually enter in 5, that it stops. Uh-oh, didn't stop. So that should have stopped. I don't know what's going on there. So it stopped, but it let me enter 1 extra score. So I think I need to make my loop a little bit smaller there. That's going to be in calculate. No, that's going to be in get scores. Yeah, count less than 5. So the count is increasing after that. Here count is 0, and then it goes to 1. Here so it's letting me at 5. It's letting me add 1 more score. We don't really want it to do that. Not sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then the count goes to 6. So surely the count is 5 here at 100. No, count starts at 0. So 0, and then 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then it ups to 5. Oh, this should be an OR. This should be, sorry, just something's wrong here. The count, I'm going to pause. When the count is less than 5, and the score is greater than 0. Count less than 5. Okay, so there's a little bit of an error here, and I know a way to fix it. I'm not sure if it's the best way to fix it, but what's happening here is when they enter the 5th item, so this 5th 90, so count start before you enter the 90 in, count is at 40, but then when you enter the 90 in here, gets the score, that's when the count yeah, so the count goes to 5 here, then it gets another score, which is the 6th score. So then it goes back up and it realizes that count is no longer less than 5. So count is actually 5, but you've actually entered 6 scores. So one way to fix this, I believe, is just to put an if statement here inside the while loop. If count is still less than 5, get the score. So if the count is not less than 5, then the while loop will not run again, and we don't need another score. If the count is less than 5, we need him to get another score, and if that score is negative, then it'll stop. So let's try this. When I say try it, I want to try 2 things. I want to try not entering anything in. Okay, no scores were entered. That's good. And I want to try entering exactly 5 things. So 50, 60, 70, 80, and 90. and that was my 5th score. So there's no reason for the program to ask me for another score. So that worked. So that little if statement in the while loop fixes that unanticipated error that I had from before, and that'll happen. I didn't do like robust enough testing. I also haven't tested sort of, can I enter in like John, and what happens? It just invalid input, try again. So that's working. And if I enter in, 5.2, again, invalid input, try again. If I just hit enter by mistake, oh, I guess I got to put something there. Invalid input, please try again. So that's working in terms of the robustness of my program. And then we still need to fix the output results. Oh no, I guess output results, if you don't have any scores, I think I already fixed it. If count is greater than 0, do that. Otherwise, print no scores were entered. Great. What I need to change is now I can have a count between 0 and 5 here. And we could say here, count equals 0, returns an average of -1, just to kind of tell the user that, I'm returning something here. I'm returning a -1 if there is nothing to average. And I feel like up here we had somewhere else, yeah, numbers between 0 and 5. Okay, so that's it for this video. I know I wasn't doing that much here, so probably I should have done additional testing in that last video. It got a little long, so just trying to get out of that video. Again, I'll sort of try to capture this guy on screen for you. If you want to pause, there's the top half. And I'll scroll down to get score. There's the middle part. And I'll scroll down again to get output results.